Hi, good morning. Yeah, and how are you? And let's get started. You can see the decor is very what I would call budget hotel. And if you were to ask me what my favorite thing about the painting behind me is, I'd have to say the squares. um, there we go. Anyhow, I'm Dr. Ben Newman, and I study coronaviruses, and let's try to answer your questions about coronaviruses or whatever, but mostly coronaviruses. First question is from Angela. Good morning, Angela. All right, let's see. Thank you for your thoughts on the Pfizer vaccine. Listen very carefully, and I do have another question. What does it mean when they say that the vaccine is 95% effective? Yeah, good question. With the first announcement back when they were only above 90% effective, it was hard to tell. They said they had 94 cases. And so if you imagine that the two groups are split evenly, then you could say, okay, if you had most of your cases, 80 some cases in the one group, and your 4 or 5 cases in the other group, then you could get to roughly that number. But it wasn't clear because not all studies have two equal sized groups. Sometimes, you put twice as many in the group that are getting the real treatment compared to the placebo. It's a decision that, they make when designing the trial. And then once that decision's made, you just stick to it rigidly. But for the second one, I'm sure it was not at my, urging, but yeah. Some other people, I think, also complained that it's kind of hard to tell exactly what they mean by these numbers. And so for the second press release, which is, again, all we've got for the phase 3 from Moderna, it shows the actual numbers. They got the number of people involved, and I think it was 162 that got the virus that were in the placebo group. And I want to say it was 8 in the other group, or 8 or 9, I don't know. And so that's the number. It's not that everybody was protected; it's that most people were protected, and it seemed to be protection regardless of age. I think the safety profiles have already been approved for this. I think it already shows a very nice, at least antibody immune response, and I don't know. There's only so many ways you can look at those numbers. I think if I were part of the UK's process, which I am not, I don't know what real comeback I would have had to say don't approve this or wait a little longer. It seems like a good thing, and the approval that's being given out is not full approval, like where you could give this to anybody, anytime, anywhere. This is emergency use authorization, which is a temporary approval renewed on a rolling basis, and it's a thing that can only happen during an emergency, like we're in right now. There we go. So let's see. Let me read the rest of the question because I think there was more. I have not looked at it yet. So what was the sample size? Ooh, here, let me click over to my Pfizer tab. 43,000 participants. 162 got the virus in the placebo group, 8 in the vaccine group. Okay, so I remember that. That part's good at least. So, yeah, good size. And those numbers would be about right for a study that only lasted something like 2 months. You have to go, I believe, a minimum of 2 months to qualify for even emergency use approval. But during that time, there doesn't seem to be any major safety thing that has come up. And honestly, it seems to work better than anything else I have seen out there. So let's see. I'm more concerned with the efficacy, and will this view of 95% effective result in complacency? Almost certainly. You know people, I know people, yeah. I think also the 95% complacency is probably 95% complacency. No, it's 100% complacency. Sorry, the 95% effectiveness is probably something like a high water mark. So they are taking this at the peak of immunity, and in the 2 months after you've had the 2 doses, this is when they are monitoring for signs of illness, and this is when you would expect it to be most effective. Now, as time goes on, you would expect the effect to eventually wear away, and we have yet to see what the dynamics of this one looks like. So how fast it drops down, yeah, how low it goes, how long it stays up, yeah, it doesn't have to be bad. And so I think in the real world, in the future, in the long term, that number is going to be lower, but we can survive lower. Lower still gets us some kind of protection. But yeah, I don't know. The world is such a mess right now. Um, yeah, yeah. It may just be my perspective living in a country where it seems like, I don't know, it seems like science doesn't matter, and like being able to back things up with data don't matter. I mean, clearly they do, but it's just that a lot of people are playing this game right now, and yeah, it does make me nuts. And as this is not the only country where that's happening, this is a very widespread thing. Yeah. Let's see. Going on about the complacency, especially since the under 50s probably won't even be eligible for the vaccine right away. I think they are planning to start rolling it out a little later, but yeah, if it is given to those with the most need, that's probably going to be older people. Although I would say if you can get it into younger people, that's where the virus is probably going to be coming from. So I think younger people pass the virus around more, and then older people pay the price for it. And I think ultimately you have to inoculate that entire population structure, because in older people, in the Moderna vaccine anyway, the effects seem to start a little bit lower and wear off a little bit faster. So just vaccinating older people may not actually protect older people unless you also round up and vaccinate all the younger goofballs around them. Yeah. But that's my thinking on this, and yeah, we'll have to watch it play out, I think. But yeah, that's where the data is lined up at the moment. So, all right. That's probably more than you needed, and thanks very much. This has been Ask Dr. Ben.